for syncing tracks to replace a Zoom file or some other not high quality file with the exact same recording from a different device. So here I have 3 tracks. One of them is my guest, one of them is my recording using that Zoom software, and one of them is my recording with my Zoom H5. So what I want to do first is find a clip either in my Zoom file or my other Zoom file. So I'm going to go ahead and just make them about the same size and hit this solo button and mute. I have them. I'm going to delete this real quick. Okay, so here's the thing where I'm saying something. What am I saying?
What's your fondest memory of?
What's my fondest memory? So I'm going to go and find the same clip in my recording.
What's your fondest memory?
Okay, so I'm just going to do a big hack here. So I put 2 cuts on those 2 things, and then I line them up, zoom in. This doesn't have to be precise. The preciseness will come later. So you kind of just want to line them up more or less the same. And then this is a trick that sometimes helps, sometimes it doesn't. So go really far out, drag the files way out, like that. If you don't see this little drag icon, it's because you need to have all of these selected. So go ahead and hit this little bar up here to make sure that you see that. So I'm going to go into the kind of empty space on the first track, and I'm going to hit tab, and I'm making sure that I have this button here is illuminated. This is called tab to transients. So click this if it's not already clicked, and that will take me right to a point where sound first happens. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that again, but it might not be exact because my recording here is a little bit more sensitive than this one, so it picked up some more noise. So I'm just going to tab until I see something that's somewhat similar. So this looks like it's about the same. And then I'm just going to zoom in really, really, really far. And you can see this little blip here, right? That's what the tab to transient picked up, this blip. And you can also see it here. So what I actually like to do is I like to hit this button right here, which enlarges the size of the wave, but doesn't actually change the clip gain or the volume. It's just how much you can see. All right. So we see this here. So what I do then is I kind of just use the mover tool and just kind of line that up. And it's not an exact match here. So I also just kind of go back in and see if there's other spots that would correlate, and just keep going, keep going. All right, so here's something actually being said. So I'm just going to match this peak with this peak, like that. And then you can use a marker if you're not sure it's completely lined up. It's okay. That's more or less there. Okay, so once you got that lined up, you're going to go ahead and just drag out what you cut from the other place, and then drag out your other file, and then you can make it less huge by going back down on this button up here on the top left menu bar, make it normal looking again. And then, this is important, what I like to do here is I select one of the tracks, holding down shift, press the semicolon, or just use your click if you want to select both of the tracks. And then what I do is I press shift command G. Why isn't this showing up? There we go. And so what that will do is that will make a clip group, so that, where did it go? Oh, sorry, option command G, not shift command G, option command G. So what that will do is it'll create a kind of copy of that grouping together, so it's perfectly synced up. And then I'm just going to rename this clip group here full JA sync, because that's my initials. That is a synced file that's just in case you mess up or something gets out of whack and you can't figure out what happened and you just want to start over without doing this whole thing. Okay, so once you do that, you can press Option Command U to ungroup them, but that same group is still there as a backup in your clip bin. And now they are synced. So the next step that I do is I will select both of the tracks. So here they are selected, and then I will press Command G, and what that does is it creates a group. And what I select the two, so now we have my track and then the track that was recorded in the Zoom. They're kind of glued together, and then I'm going to name it JA Sync. Okay, so what that does essentially is I can do lots of crap to this, and like they're going to be stuck together. Well, that one wasn't, but they should be stuck together. Why is this not moving in sync? There we go. So that just prevents you from unsyncing stuff when you are making cuts. Now that these are synced, you're going to give it a little test listen.
The Indian restaurant, it was so good.
So if you hear an echo, that means that they're not perfectly synced. It just should sound a little bit louder, like it's being compressed or something. So now that you have them synced, you can go ahead and hit the mute button or unselect your group, because when you have your group selected, one action will apply to both of them. Mute one of the tracks, and then press the sync. And then the last step here is what I do is I actually select all of them and I press Command G and I make a new group for full interview sync. Why do I do that? I do that because when I want to have my next step in this process, now that I have this track muted, I'm just going to be replacing this track with this track, but there might be something along the lines, maybe there's a glitch on like my recording, on my equipment, maybe there's something happens where you want to use this, but you don't want to have to go back and resubstitute. So if you just do this from the very beginning, you'll never have to worry about it. So when I'm listening through, this is muted, so it doesn't matter anyway, and while I'm doing my like cuts, you know, here, let's say I cut this here, and I decide like, oh, there's like this really good like right here, or me saying right or something that I want to use, but there's something here that's not going to help me. I'm going to use this one instead. I just ungroup them and just select that thing, you know, and this will be the one that is unmuted, whereas this one will be the one that is muted. And then I can kind of swap them in and out without having to worry about it too much or having to go from the beginning. So that's how I sync everything every single time. Eventually my session will look like this, where this whole section is muted, like that. And then there'll just be like little bits and pieces of me that you can hear, and then just big pieces of muted, where you don't need to hear the buzzing or the air conditioning or whatever the fuck. So that is how I sync stuff. That's my method, and you know, sometimes you'll see something like this instead if you want to swap something out, and it just makes it clear for the engineer who will be mastering your thing why you swap something in or out. And that is how I sync interviews and replace audio. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.